We chose to research the three sustainable energy sources of geothermal, wind, and nuclear, and to show our findings in comparison to coal-generated energy and pollution output.
Geothermal energy is energy that is produced and stored within the earth. Geothermal energy has been around since Paleolithic times, when people first started using hot springs to cook over and to heat their homes. The oldest known geothermal usage was in the Qin dynasty in 3rd century BC. Then later the Romans also harnessed geothermal energy when they conquered land in England. Earth's internal heat is thermal energy generated by radioactive decay, and also heat loss from Earth's formation. Worldwide, about 11,700 megawatts of geothermal generated power were available for consumer use. Geothermal energy is cost-effective, reliable, and of course, sustainable, but it was traditionally only available in areas with tectonic activity. Technological advancements have made it more available in other areas with no active plate boundaries. Geothermal wells still release greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, but compared to oil, coal, and natural gases, the amount of greenhouse gases emitted are trace amounts. The Earth has more than enough geothermal resources to meet humanity's energy needs, but only a fraction of the resources can be profitably exploited. Drilling for these resources and making wells is extremely expensive. Iceland is the leading country with geothermal energy production, with 30% of their energy coming from geothermal resources. The Philippines comes in a close second with 27%, and in third is El Salvador, with 25% of their energy use coming from geothermal resources. The United States is the largest global supplier of geothermal energy, but it is not widely used, as only 0.3% of the nation's energy is produced by geothermal. The fluids that come up from deep inside the earth can be very hazardous to human health. The gas that comes up is a mixture of carbon dioxide, hydrogen sulfide, methane, and ammonia. These gases contribute heavily to climate change and acid rain. Geothermal power plants emit around 122 kilograms of CO2 per megawatt hour of electricity produced, which is a fraction of the amount that fossil fuels emit as they are burned. The main downside to geothermal energy plants are that they make the land around them very unstable. Because of the drilling into the ground, the soil is made to be very unstable and way more porous than it was before. This has not been a problem as of yet, because many of the geothermal plants are in sparsely inhabited areas.
Each year, U.S. geothermal electricity offsets the emission of 22 million metric tons of CO2, 200,000 tons of sulfur dioxide, and 110,000 tons of particulate matter from coal-powered plants. How much does geothermal energy cost to use per kilowatt hour? The answer to this is that geothermal power is sold at 3 cents to 3.5 cents per kilowatt hour. A power plant built today would probably require about 5 cents per kilowatt hour. Depending on how many appliances in a home are in use, the average cost of using geothermal energy is 80% less than the bill when using fossil fuels.
Wind energy produces energy by having a very tall tower with a turbine attached. As the wind blows, the turbine spins and powers a generator that creates electricity. Wind energy has been in use since humans started to use sails. For almost 2 millennia, humans have used windmills to grind grain and pump water. What made wind power very widely used was the fact that wind energy is very widely accessible and very easy to harness. The first windmill used for electricity was built in Scotland in 1887 and was used to power lighting inside the cabin. Wind energy is mostly harnessed through wind farms, which are really just a big plot of land with hundreds of wind turbines that are all generating electricity. The United States is the world leader in wind energy production, with the only other country coming close to our numbers being China. Wind energy is expensive, and the supplies are much more stable and reliable than fossil fuels, so if everyone used wind energy, the economy would not fluctuate as much as it does when based on fossil fuels. Many arguments against wind energy and other sustainable energies in general are that the fossil fuel industry provides thousands of jobs and that we can't afford to make the switch to clean energy because of the job loss the country would experience. However, the wind industry in particular would offer a very large supply of jobs. The industry already generates tens of thousands of jobs and billions of dollars in economic activity. Wind energy has a lot less environmental impacts than fossil fuels do, but there are a few negative effects that wind energy can have on the environment. The biggest impact it has on the environment is that the wind turbines are hazardous to wildlife. One of the biggest wind farms in the United States is located in California, right in the way of the migratory path of an endangered species of golden eagle. The turbines kill hundreds of these birds every year, so it could turn into a real problem if a solution is not quickly found. Another hazard to do with wind turbines is habitat destruction of the ocean floor. Many wind farms are offshore, which requires many turbines to be built on the open ocean, and it can disrupt many aquatic ecosystems. The turbines also require regular maintenance, which disturbs the ecosystem on a regular basis, not allowing it to recover from the initial building of the turbines.
How much power is there in a 20 mile per hour wind? 20 miles per hour of wind is equal to 10 meters a second. There are 0.006 watts of energy produced in those 10 seconds. If you multiply those 0.006 by 1,000, you get 0.6 kilowatts per square meter, which is equivalent to 600 watts per square meter.
Nuclear power is generated through nuclear reactions that release energy to generate heat. Nuclear power has been around since 1932, when Ernest Rutherford discovered that lithium atoms could be split and that they then released mass amounts of energy. In the same year, James Chadwick discovered that neutrons have massive nuclear reaction potential. Thus, the first nuclear reactor was built in 1942 in the United States. However, this research was also then put to use in the Manhattan Project to create the A-bomb against Japan in World War II. The main problem with nuclear energy is the public's perception of it. Nuclear disasters such as 3 Mile Island, Chernobyl, and Fukushima have shaken the people's trust in having a nuclear power plant nearby. In reality, the meltdowns at 3 Mile Island and Fukushima did not cause any direct deaths, and there have been almost no deaths caused by nuclear reactors outside of these events. Per unit of energy generated, nuclear energy causes 1/6 of the deaths of solar panels, despite producing 21% of the world's energy. A study conducted by NASA found nuclear to have the lowest death ratio of any energy generating system per year. However, there are also negatives attributed to nuclear energy. Reactors produce waste, which is either recycled and reclaimed or stored in facilities underground. The main problem lies in storing the waste material, as it is hazardous if not contained and has the potential to be used in the manufacturing of nuclear weapons. The main reason that all of the waste is not being reclaimed is because it is more expensive than storing it. Although many countries around the world are actively engaging in reclamation, the U.S. is currently not. Their problem lies with the possibility of a reactor meltdown. A meltdown can severely alter the landscape, making it unsafe for human habitation, and the effects of the radiation can affect the surrounding area for thousands of years after the initial reaction. The reason for this is narrowed down directly to the building and maintenance costs of the reactors themselves. The current leading reactor is the simplest one, and is also the least expensive to build. This lack of cost also correlates to a lack of stability. The light water reactor is not the safest or the most efficient, and because of this, the chance of a meltdown increases. In comparison to fossil fuel energy sources, since 1976, nuclear energy has prevented 64 gigatons of greenhouse gas emissions that would have arisen from coal and oil. Current technology is being developed to increase both safety and production, while also reducing the current waste.
3 different types, geothermal, wind, and nuclear. They each have their own pluses and negatives. I think as a long-term source, combining geothermal and wind power would be really, really awesome, because oftentimes where you get geothermal activity, there could be wind in that area. Wind and geothermal and hydrothermal are the ones that are really super beneficial. Nuclear I think is good to be used in the interim until these technologies are better developed.
In conclusion, through our comprehensive research of these three energy sources, we have determined that geothermal and hydrothermal energy would be the most efficient long-term source of sustainable energy. If sustainable energy became the standard source of electricity worldwide, we would see a significant decrease in fossil fuel consumption, as well as the progression of climate change. Sustainable energy movements need more funding to become a primary source of energy. However, if citizens across the globe are serious about saving the world and its inhabitants from extinction, sustainable energy is the only long-term answer.